Amanda turned her attention to Chukwu, the blacksmith whose temper matched the heat from a volcano. He looked at her as she approached, brandishing his hammer with ill-concealed arrogance. But Amanda was undeterred. With a deft movement, once upon a time in the village of Etiti, beneath the watchful gaze of tall baobab trees, there lived a woman named Amanda. Her presence commanded respect, her spirit as that of a lioness that prowled the savannah. Amanda was no ordinary woman, for she had been blessed by the goddess of the land with strength beyond measure. It was said that the goddess had restored upon Amanda this gift as a punishment to the men of the village who had mistreated their wives and children. And so, Amanda took it upon herself to set out justice, to right the wrongs inflicted upon the women and children who suffered in silence. One fateful day, word spread like wildfire through the village that Amanda, the woman blessed by the goddess, had come to deliver her divine powers. As the sun cast its golden rays upon the villagers gathered in anticipation, eager to witness the unfolding event. The first man to feel Amanda's strength was Okeke, a powerful farmer known for his temper and his heavy hand. He was fond of beating his wife and kids. Okeke stood in the center of the village square, chest puffed out with false bravado, as Amanda approached him with a calm determination in her eyes. With a swift motion, she raised her hand and struck Okeke with a force that sent him to the ground, his pride shattered like clay beneath her feet. Next, Amanda turned her attention to Chukwu, the blacksmith whose temper matched the heat from a volcano. He looked at her as she approached, brandishing his hammer with ill-concealed arrogance. But Amanda was undeterred. With a deft movement, she disarmed Chukwu and pinned him to the ground, his protests falling on deaf ears as she delivered her judgment. The third man to face Amanda's wrath was Emeka, the butcher known for his cruel treatment of both his wife and his livestock. He had watched in disbelief as Amanda approached, her gaze unwavering as she prepared to set out her punishment. With a kick, she sent Emeka tumbling to the ground, his cries echoing through the village as he begged for mercy. As the day wore on, Amanda continued her righteous deeds, each blow delivered with precision and purpose. She confronted Okoro, the fisherman whose neglect had left his family hungry and destitute. And then she faced Uche, the potter whose hands were stained with the blood of his own kin. With each victory, the villagers watched in awe and wonders, knowing that justice was being served by the hand of the goddess-blessed woman. But it was not just the men who witnessed Amanda's strength that day. Women and children alike looked on with hope in their hearts, knowing that Amanda fought for them, that she stood as a beacon of strength and courage in a world surrounded by injustice. And as the sun traveled below the horizon, casting the village in shadow, Amanda stood tall amidst the fallen men, her spirit unbroken, for she knew that her battle was far from over, that there were still many more who deserved to feel the anger of the gods. But for now, as the villagers cheered her name and the echoes of her name filled the air, Amanda allowed herself a moment of respite, knowing that she had taken the first step on the path to justice, and that the goddess of the land smiled upon her deeds. In the stillness of the night, Amanda's gaze swept over the battered forms of her adversaries, her heart heavy with a mix of sorrow and resolve. She had not solved the conflict, but she had met it head-on, defending herself and upholding the principles of justice that the goddess had bestowed upon her. With a weary gaze Amanda knelt beside the closest man, a gesture of compassion in the face of their shared humanity. She offered her hand to help him rise, a silent invitation to choose the path of reconciliation over further violence. Slowly, the men began to stir, their pride wounded but their spirits unbroken. With Amanda's guidance, they helped each other to their feet, their eyes cast downward in shame as they faced the consequences of their actions. Violence against violence won't solve our problems. We must strive for peace and understanding in our hearts. Amanda said calmly, looking at the women and their children. The villagers nodded in agreement, their eyes turning to Amanda with a newfound sense of respect and admiration. They knew that she had acted not out of maliciousness, but out of a deep sense of duty and compassion for her fellow villagers. And so, with Amanda guidance, the village came together to mend the wounds of the night, both physical and emotional. Amanda tended to the injured men with gentle hands, offering words of solace and forgiveness as she bandaged their wounds. In the days that followed, a newfound sense of harmony settled over the village, as the men who had once been a problem to the community worked side by side with Amanda and the other villagers to rebuild what had been broken. And though the scars of that fateful night would linger as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked anger and pride, they also served as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of forgiveness to heal even the deepest wounds. As for Amanda, she continued to walk the path of the goddess blessed, using her strength not to inflict harm, but to protect and uplift those who needed her most. And though her journey was met with challenges and hardships, she faced each trial with courage and grace, knowing that she was guided by the divine wisdom of the goddess of the land. In the days that followed the confrontation in the village square, Amanda found herself grappling with a newfound sense of solitude. Despite the admiration and respect she garnered from her fellow villagers, there was a loneliness that gnawed at her heart, a longing for companionship that remained unfulfilled. As the sun dipped below the horizon each evening, casting long shadows across the village, Amanda would sit alone by the banks of the nearby river, her thoughts drifting to the empty space beside her. She longed for a partner to share her joys and sorrows, someone who would see beyond her extraordinary strength and admire the depth of her spirit. But despite her beauty and her kind heart, Amanda found that the eligible suitors of the village were hesitant to approach her. They admired her from afar, their eyes lingering on her graceful form and the warmth of her smile, but they could not shake the fear that gripped their hearts at the thought of being matched against her in strength. And so, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Amanda found herself resigned to a life of solitude, her heart heavy with unspoken longing. She watched as other women in the village found love and companionship, their laughter echoing through the village as they walked arm in arm with their beloveds. And though she rejoiced in their happiness, a part of her couldn't help but feel a pang of envy for the love that had eluded her. One moonlit night, as the village slept soundly beneath a blanket of stars, Amanda slipped silently from her hut, her footsteps echoing softly in the darkness of the night. With each step, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a freedom born of the knowledge that she was no longer bound by the expectations of others. With determination in her heart and the light of the moon as her guide, Amanda set out on a journey into the unknown, leaving behind the familiar comforts of her village in search of a new beginning. She traveled for days through the dense forests and rolling hills, her spirit buoyed by the promise of adventure that lay ahead. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of wandering, she arrived at the outskirts of a neighbouring village called Ibomb. She hoped to find the simplicity she craved, a chance to start anew without the weight of her past bearing down upon her. As she ventured into the heart of the village, her eyes alight with curiosity as she took in the sights and sounds of her surroundings. Here, amidst the bustling marketplace and the laughter of children playing in the community, she felt a sense of belonging that had long eluded her. And as she watched the villagers go about their daily lives, their faces open and welcoming, Amanda felt a glimmer of hope stir within her heart. Perhaps here, in this new land of endless possibilities, she would finally find the love and companionship she had so longed for. But little did Amanda know that her journey was far from over, and that the trials and tribulations that lay ahead would test her strength and resilience in ways she could never have imagined. Yet, with courage in her heart and the memory of her beloved village guiding her forward, she pressed on, ready to embrace whatever the future had in store. As Amanda ventured deeper into the neighbouring village, she was greeted with warmth and hospitality unlike anything she had experienced before. The villagers welcomed her with open arms, their smiles genuine and their hearts filled with kindness. Amanda found herself swept up in the vibrant tapestry of village life, her days filled with laughter, friendship, and the simple joys of community. Yet, amidst the warmth and camaraderie of her new surroundings, she could not shake the lingering sense of insecurity that gnawed at her heart. She watched with a mix of awe and envy as the village maidens went about their daily tasks, their laughter ringing like bells in the air, their beauty a sight to behold. But while the other maidens reveled in their beauty and the attention it garnered, she found herself plagued by doubt and self-consciousness. She cursed the jealous words that were whispered behind her back, the sharp tongues of the other maidens lashing out like thorns in her side. Yet, despite the hurtful words and the envious glances, Amanda refused to let their jealousy dim her spirit. Instead, she found solace in the simple joy of being noticed and acknowledged for her beauty, something that had been denied to her in her own village for fear of provoking her formidable strength. In the neighbouring village, Amanda revelled in the attention she received from the men of the village, their admiring gazes and shy smiles filling her heart with a sense of belonging she had never known. Some would visit her hut with offerings of bush meat and sweet wine, their gestures of affection a testament to the warmth and hospitality of the village. But it was not just the villagers who took notice of her presence. Among them was the prince of the village, a man of noble bearing and gentle spirit. He watched with keen interest as Amanda navigated the complexities of village life, her grace and humility a stark contrast to the pettiness and jealousy of the other maidens. One day, as Amanda made her way through the marketplace, her arms laden with baskets of fresh fruit and vegetables, she found herself accosted by a group of jealous maidens who sought to provoke her with their spiteful words and mocking laughter. But instead of rising to their bait, Amanda remained calm and composed, her gaze steady and her heart untroubled. She refused to engage in their petty squabbles, choosing instead to focus on the task at hand and the simple pleasures of village life. And as the prince watched from afar, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips, he couldn't help but admire Amanda's inner strength and resilience in the face of adversity. In that moment, she seemed more radiant and beautiful than ever before, her spirit shining like a beacon in the darkness. For the prince knew that true beauty lay not in outward appearances, but in the kindness and courage that dwelled within the heart. And as he watched Amanda go about her day with grace and dignity, he knew that she was a rare gem, a treasure to be cherished and protected in a world filled with jealousy and strife. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky was painted with hues of pink and gold, there came a gentle knock on Amanda's door. Startled, she glanced around her humble hut, her heart fluttering with apprehension as she wondered who could be calling at such an hour. With cautious steps, Amanda approached the door and pulled it open, her eyes widening in surprise as she found herself face to face with the prince of the village. His presence was commanding yet gentle, his eyes warm and sincere as he met her gaze. "Good evening, Amanda," the prince greeted her with a smile, his voice soft and melodic like the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. "I am Prince Nkem, the future ruler of this land." Amanda's heart skipped a beat at the revelation, her mind racing with a flurry of questions and doubts. Had she unwittingly offended the villagers with her presence? Was the prince here to reprimand her for some imagined transgression? Before she could voice her concerns, the prince held up a hand, his expression reassuring. "Please, there is no need to be afraid," he said kindly. "I have not come here to accuse you of anything. In fact, I have been watching you from afar, and I must say, I am impressed by your peaceful nature and your gentle spirit." Amanda blinked in surprise, her fear giving way to a sense of confusion. She had expected the prince to be stern and imposing, yet here he stood before her, his demeanor warm and welcoming. The prince took a step closer, his eyes meeting hers with a sincerity that took her breath away. "I have come here tonight with a simple request," he said softly. "I wish to be friends with you, Amanda. I see in you a kindred spirit, someone who values peace and harmony above all else." Amanda's heart swelled with conflicting emotions at the prince's words. On one hand, she longed for companionship and friendship, to have someone to share her joys and sorrows with. But on the other hand, she knew that such a friendship would invite jealousy and suspicion from the other maidens of the village, and she could not bear the thought of causing strife or discord. With a heavy heart, Amanda shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper as she spoke. "I appreciate your offer, Prince Nkem, but I cannot accept," she said softly, her eyes downcast. "I have seen the jealousy and resentment that my presence has sparked among the other maidens of the village, and I cannot bear to be the cause of any more discord." The prince's expression softened with understanding, his eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and respect for Amanda's selflessness. He reached out a hand to gently touch her shoulder, his touch light and reassuring. "I understand, Amanda," he said gently, "but know that my offer still stands. Should you ever change your mind, I will be here, ready to welcome you with open arms." With a final nod of gratitude, the prince bid Amanda good night and turned to leave, his footsteps fading into the night. And as Amanda watched him go, her heart heavy with longing and regret, she knew that she had made the right decision, for the sake of peace and harmony in her newfound home. As days turned into weeks, rumors began to swirl through the village like smoke from a distant fire. Whispers of Amanda's friendship with the prince spread like wildfire, igniting jealousy and suspicion among the other maidens of the village. At first, the maidens scoffed at the notion, their faces twisted with envy as they exchanged knowing glances behind Amanda's back. They could not fathom why the prince would choose to spend his time with a woman of such humble origins when there were plenty of maidens of noble birth who would gladly vie for his attention. But as the days passed and the sightings of the prince visiting Amanda's hut became more frequent, the maidens could no longer deny the truth that lay before them. Their jealousy turned to bitterness, their hearts heavy with resentment as they watched from afar, their minds filled with thoughts of what could have been. Yet, amidst the sea of jealousy and suspicion, there were whispers of a different kind, whispers of admiration and awe for the bond that was forming between Amanda and the prince. For the first time in living memory, the prince, who rarely spoke to anyone outside of his inner circle, was seen spending his evenings in deep conversation with Amanda, their voices mingling like a symphony in the night. And it was not just their conversations that captured the attention of the villagers. On several occasions, the prince and Amanda could be seen walking arm in arm through the village, their laughter echoing like music in the air. It was a sight that filled the villagers with wonder and delight, for they had never seen the prince so carefree and joyful in the presence of another. As the days turned into weeks, the maidens could no longer ignore the undeniable bond that had formed between Amanda and the prince. And though their jealousy still burned bright within their hearts, a seed of curiosity began to take root, a curiosity born of the desire to understand the enigmatic connection between two souls from vastly different worlds. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, the maidens gathered together in hushed whispers, their faces etched with a mixture of uncertainty and trepidation. They knew that they could no longer ignore the truth that lay before them, and they knew that they must confront Amanda and seek her forgiveness for the jealousy and suspicion that had clouded their hearts. With hesitant steps, the maidens made their way to Amanda's hut, their hearts heavy with guilt and remorse. They knocked softly on the door, their voices barely above a whisper as they called out to her. Amanda opened the door, her eyes wide with surprise as she took in the sight of the maidens standing before her. She could see the remorse etched upon their faces, their eyes downcast with shame as they awaited her response. With a heavy heart, Amanda invited the maidens into her humble abode, her voice gentle and kind as she welcomed them with open arms. She could see the weight of their guilt pressing down upon them, and she knew that they had come seeking forgiveness for the hurtful words and actions that had driven a wedge between them. And so, as the maidens gathered around her, their voices trembling with emotion, they poured out their hearts in apology, their words a testament to the depth of their remorse. They spoke of their jealousy and resentment, their fear of being cast aside in favor of Amanda's newfound friendship with the prince. But Amanda listened with a heart full of compassion, her spirit untouched by anger or bitterness. She knew that their jealousy had stemmed from a place of insecurity and fear, and she forgave them with grace and understanding. In the days that followed, a sense of peace and harmony settled over the village once more, as the maidens and Amanda set aside their differences and came together as friends. And though the future remained uncertain, with whispers of a possible union between Amanda and the prince lingering in the air, the villagers knew that whatever the outcome, they would face it together, united in friendship and love. As days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, a sense of unease settled over the village like a heavy fog, casting a shadow over the once vibrant community. Despite the smiles that adorned their faces and the laughter that echoed through the streets, the villagers lived in fear, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that danger loomed on the horizon. The prince's visits to Amanda's hut became fewer and farther between, his once warm and affectionate demeanor replaced by a sense of duty and responsibility befitting his princely station. He explained to Amanda that his duties as ruler required his full attention, leaving little time for personal pursuits. Though she understood the prince's predicament, a sense of longing gnawed at her heart, knowing that she would no longer have his love and attention to buoy her spirits in the dark days ahead. But she pushed aside her own desires, knowing that the safety of the village and its inhabitants must come first. As whispers of an impending attack spread through the village, she felt a sense of urgency wash over her, a primal instinct to protect those she had come to love like family. She knew that she could not stand idly by while innocent women, men, and children fell victim to the horrors of war. And so, after days of internal struggle and sleepless nights spent wrestling with her conflicting emotions, she made a decision that would change the course of her destiny forever. With a steely resolve and a heart filled with determination, she vowed to stand and fight alongside the villagers, using her extraordinary strength to defend the good people who had welcomed her with open arms. With each passing day, Amanda prepared herself for the inevitable battle that lay ahead, honing her skills and fortifying her resolve with every breath she took. She knew that the odds were stacked against them, that they faced a formidable enemy whose strength and numbers far surpassed their own. But she refused to let fear dictate her actions, drawing strength from the love and support of the villagers who had become her family. Together, they trained tirelessly, their spirits unbroken despite the looming specter of war that hung over their heads like a dark cloud. And as the fateful day dawned, with the sun rising like a fiery beacon in the sky, she stood at the forefront of the village, her eyes ablaze with determination and courage. The air crackled with tension as the villagers gathered around her, their faces set in grim determination as they prepared to face the enemy that threatened to tear their world apart. With a mighty roar that echoed through the village like thunder, the enemy descended upon them, their weapons glinting in the harsh light of day. Amanda met their onslaught head-on, her muscles flexing with raw power as she unleashed a fury unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. With each swing of her weapon and each blow she landed, she carved a path of destruction through the enemy ranks, her strength a force to be reckoned with. She fought with a ferocity born of love and desperation, knowing that the lives of her friends and family hung in the balance. But amidst the chaos and the carnage, a sense of hope began to blossom within the hearts of the villagers, as they watched in awe and admiration as Amanda single-handedly turned the tide of battle in their favor. They fought with renewed vigor and determination, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that they had a champion in their midst. And as the dust settled and the enemy lay defeated at their feet, the villagers gathered around her, their faces alight with gratitude and reverence. They knew that they owed their lives to her bravery and sacrifice, and they vowed to honor her memory for generations to come. For she had proven herself to be more than just a woman blessed with extraordinary strength. She was a hero, a guardian of the innocent, and a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. And though her journey had been fraught with hardship and sacrifice, she had emerged victorious, her spirit unbroken and her legacy destined to endure for eternity. As the dust settled and the village began to rebuild in the wake of the battle, a sense of gratitude and reverence permeated the air. The villagers gathered around Amanda, their faces alight with admiration and respect as they thanked her for her bravery and strength in the face of adversity. They knew that without her, their village would have fallen to ruin, and they vowed to honor her for her selfless sacrifice. Among the villagers stood the prince, his eyes filled with awe and admiration as he watched her with a mixture of pride and affection. He had witnessed her courage and determination firsthand, and his admiration for her had only grown stronger with each passing day. But despite the praise and adulation of the villagers, she could not shake the feeling of apprehension that gnawed at her heart. She knew that the prince had not visited her since the battle, and a part of her feared what he might say when he finally came to her hut. And so, when the prince finally arrived at her doorstep one evening, Amanda's heart leapt into her throat, her hands trembling with nervous anticipation. She hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with thoughts of what might come to pass, before finally summoning the courage to open the door. But to her surprise, the prince did not come bearing accusations or recriminations. Instead, he stood before her with a look of unwavering love and devotion, his eyes shining with sincerity as he spoke from the depths of his heart. At ease, he began softly, his voice gentle yet firm. From the moment I first laid eyes on you, I knew that you were someone special. Your strength, your courage, your unwavering determination in the face of adversity, they are what define you, what make you the remarkable woman that you are. Amanda's breath caught in her throat as she listened to the prince's words, her heart swelling with emotion at the depth of his love and understanding. She had feared that he would be repelled by her strength, that he would see her as a monster instead of the woman she truly was. But his words reassured her, filling her with a sense of peace and acceptance she had never known. I love you, Amanda, the prince continued, his voice ringing with conviction. Not in spite of your strength, but because of it. It is a part of who you are, a testament to the extraordinary person that you have become, and I would not have it any other way. Tears welled in her eyes as she listened to the prince's declaration of love, her heart overflowing with a sense of gratitude and joy unlike anything she had ever known. She had spent so long fearing rejection and condemnation, but in the prince's eyes, she saw only acceptance and adoration. And so, with a heart full of love and gratitude, she threw open the door of her hut, her eyes shining with tears of joy as she embraced the prince with all the strength and passion that lay within her. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth and love of the village that had become her home, she knew that she had found her true place in the world, by the side of the man she loved, and among the people who had welcomed her with open arms. As she basked in the warmth of the prince's love and acceptance, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a burden she had carried for far too long. With each passing moment, she found herself opening up to him, sharing the stories of her past and the struggles she had faced on her journey to find acceptance and belonging. She spoke of the village she had left behind, a place where her strength had been both a blessing and a curse, where the fear and suspicion of her abilities had driven her to seek solace in a neighboring land. She recounted the loneliness and isolation she had felt, the longing for companionship and acceptance that had fueled her desire to find a place where she could truly belong. And as she spoke, the prince listened with rapt attention, his heart overflowing with compassion and understanding. He had never known the depths of Amanda's struggles, the pain and loneliness that had haunted her every step of the way. But now, as she laid bare her soul before him, he felt a sense of kinship and connection unlike anything he had ever known. Determined to make amends for the pain and suffering Amanda had endured, the prince made a decision that would change the course of their lives forever. He vowed to go to Amanda's village and ask for her hand in marriage, to bring her back to his kingdom as his beloved wife and queen. And so, accompanied by his father, the king of the 5 kingdoms, the prince set out on a journey to Amanda's village, his heart filled with hope and anticipation. As they traveled, the prince's mind was consumed with thoughts of Amanda, of the love and happiness they would share together once she was by his side. Meanwhile, back in Amanda's village, the people rejoiced at the news of her impending marriage to the prince. They had watched with pride and admiration as she had grown from a young girl into a strong and courageous woman, and they were overjoyed to see her finally find the love and happiness she so rightly deserved. When the prince and his father arrived at the village, they were greeted with open arms and warm smiles, the villagers eager to welcome them as honored guests. They were ushered into the center of the village, where Amanda stood waiting, her eyes shining with happiness at the sight of her beloved prince. With tears of joy streaming down her cheeks, Amanda embraced the prince, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. She had never dared to dream that she would find such happiness, such acceptance and love, and yet here it was, standing before her in the form of the man she loved more than anything in the world. And so, with the blessings of the village elders and the joyous celebrations of the people, the prince and Amanda were joined together in marriage, their union a symbol of hope and happiness for all who bore witness to their love. The wedding ceremony was a grand affair, attended by people from all 5 kingdoms, each eager to celebrate the union of 2 souls destined to be together. The air was filled with music and laughter, the scent of flowers mingling with the aroma of delicious food and sweet wine. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars twinkled overhead, the prince and Amanda exchanged vows of love and devotion, pledging to stand by each other's side through thick and thin, for all eternity. For Amanda and the prince, their journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but in the end, love had conquered all. Their marriage was a union of 2 souls, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by the trials they had faced together. And as they basked in the warmth of their love, their thoughts turned to the future, to the family they longed to create together. And so, with hearts full of hope and anticipation, Amanda and the prince welcomed the news of Amanda's pregnancy with joy and excitement. It was a momentous occasion, a symbol of their love and commitment to each other, and they vowed to cherish every moment of this new chapter in their lives. As the months went by, Amanda's belly swelled with new life, a tangible reminder of the miracle growing within her. The prince doted on her with love and affection, showering her with gifts and attention as they awaited the arrival of their little ones. And finally, the day arrived when Amanda went into labor, her cries echoing through the village as she brought their children into the world. With the prince by her side, she labored with strength and courage, her love for him and their unborn children giving her the strength to endure. And when at last their children were born, a boy and a girl, with eyes as bright as the stars and smiles that lit up the room, Amanda and the prince's hearts overflowed with joy and gratitude. They cradled their precious bundles in their arms, their hearts bursting with love as they marveled at the miracle of life they had created together. As the years went by, Amanda and the prince watched with pride as their children grew and thrived, their laughter filling the air with joy and happiness. They raised them with love and care, instilling in them the values of compassion, courage, and kindness that had guided their own lives. And as their children grew into strong and capable young adults, Amanda and the prince knew that their legacy would live on for generations to come. They ruled over their kingdom with wisdom and grace, their love for each other and their people shining like a beacon of hope in a world filled with darkness. And so, surrounded by their beloved children and the people they had sworn to protect, Amanda and the prince lived out the rest of their days in peace and happiness, their love for each other glowing like a flame that could never be extinguished. And as they looked back on their journey together, they knew that they had found true happiness in each other's arms, and that their love would endure for all eternity.